Welcome in, everybody, to another Film Room session here on Cover One, the Film Room. It's me, of course, Nate Geary. With me, as always, Cover One founder and I would call you let's call you a film nerd, Eric Turner. Eric Turner on Eric. An exciting time. We got regular season football to break down, man. Not only that, but a comeback victory from through the arm of the quarterback. So we've got a lot to break down today. I know you're excited and exhausted because there was a lot of plays this week to break down.
Oh my God, the first half with that no-huddle approach by Brian Daboll in the offense. I mean, the first half of breaking down this film took me forever just to edit it and get it ready just for this show, but I'm excited, obviously on the outcome of the game, but to show you some of the ups and downs, of course, of Josh Allen's play versus the Jets. It was a game, I mean, he dropped back 44 times, Nate, and, you know, he had some ups and downs early, but when the team needed him to make plays in that second half, and especially in that fourth quarter, plays we're going to get to, I mean, he showed his moxie and led the team on a comeback win. So what were your overall thoughts on this play as we kind of look at some of these statistics from Pro Football Focus?
Yeah, you know, some people might look at the 4 turnovers and really look at Josh Allen's day as a failure overall. I tend to want to look at the bigger picture here and look outside of the turnovers as, of course, negatives, but as building blocks, as a learning points for Josh Allen moving forward. What we didn't see, right? That's what I was most interested with the turnovers. What turnovers didn't I see? I didn't see Josh Allen roll out to his right and throw across his body 35 yards and get intercepted. That's a positive sign. The first interception in pick 6 from Cole Beasley, not a great throw, but a throw that you want your receiver to catch and hang on to, and not really kind of bow tie for a defender to walk into the end zone. And then, you know, obviously the other pick, you know, you'd like to see better judgment from Josh Allen overall. But the four turnovers aren't a huge point of contention for me. If Josh Allen can replicate everything that he did in week 1 against, I thought, a pretty sturdy Jets defense on the interior, he's going to have a very good season. I mean, 250 yards a game, by the way, guys, is 4,000 yards. So if he can replicate that week in and week out and sort of clean up the turnovers, that's a performance I'm very comfortable moving forward with and liking to see replicate throughout the season.
Yeah, 254 yards. You know, he completed 64.9% completion percentage. So he did a good job of, you know, distributing. Yes, he did have some bad decisions, but overall, I mean, for him to struggle like that in the first half, for his defense to hold on and keep the game close, for the game plan, I mean, let's talk about Brian Daboll and the game plan. I mean, every week we're, you know, in awe at some of the stuff that he's able to do with the talent he had last year. And then this game plan was probably one of the most creative that I've seen in several years. And I mean, not just Brian Daboll. I'm talking about the scouting staff that, you know, helps and supports and looks at the film leading up to this game against the Jets. I mean, they had to scour a ton of film, not only from the Jets games last year, but obviously Greg Williams' defensive film with the Browns in prior years. You got to give some props to the, you know, quarterback coaches, Ken Dorsey, the assistant, and Shea Tierney, and how they worked with Allen. And again, coming up with this game plan of, you know, no huddle. I mean, the whole first quarter, they were in the no huddle and they were moving the ball up and down the field. And again, yes, the turnovers did happen, but, you know, Josh Allen's command was the best I've seen in his short career. And you're going to see a lot of these plays and why they kept the Patrick DeMarcos in, why they kept the Lee Smiths in, those personnel groupings. You're going to see why and what difference that made in the game in that first quarter. I mean, dude, it dictated the whole game, defensive game for Greg Williams, because, I mean, early on they wanted to bring pressure, but, well, guess what? That no huddle kept the coverages very vanilla. We'll see them check out of some coverages. We'll see them play 10 Tampa 2 cover 2 coverages against that no huddle approach, simply because they didn't want to give up a big play. So the offensive game plan dictated the defensive coverages by Greg Williams and that New York Jets staff. So let's get right into film. We got a lot of film to break down this week. I'm really excited, obviously. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first play. All right, Nate. So we're going to jump in early in the first quarter, 2nd and 1 play. And we talked about the no huddle. We talked about Allen, his command and poise. And you'll see them line up in a twin set. And then Allen checks out of it. And watch both sides of the ball. Pay attention to where those tight ends and those fullbacks are going and how it affects the coverages on the back end, all right? because this is going to really dictate early in this game how the offense obviously executes the plays at hand, but also what coverages are played. So early on, again, in the first quarter, the Bills send out, after checking out of that twin set, they send out a mesh wheel concept, and it shows man coverage on the defensive side. And you're going to see Josh Allen, once the ball is snapped, he's going to hit John Brown on a little crossing route as he and Cole Beasley run that little rub route. But it's a really nice play because you watch Allen, you'll see it from the tighter camera angle. Initially, his first read is Singletary swinging to the flats and then up the sideline. That guy's covered from the peeling defensive edge rusher there. And then you're going to see John Brown, who is the second receiver on this read, come across the field and get the reception. Tight throw for Allen, but good completion. So what are your thoughts on this play, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I think before we even talk about Josh Allen and how this worked, I think I want to kind of dive a little deeper into the pre-snap stuff and just how effective Brian Daboll was in the pre-snap area. And this is what I love, like, because I think this is what you hear a lot from offensive coordinators. Like, listen, we just took what the defense gave us, right? Like that is coach speak 101. That's not Brian Daboll's methodology here. Brian Daboll is, okay, I'm going to dictate what you do so that what I want to do is easily runnable or can have success, right? So like on this play, they started an I formation in what looks to be a pretty easy run set by the defense, right? Yeah. So the defense is thinking to themselves, okay, we're in an I formation, fullback, running back, a tight end, and two receivers to the outside. Easy, let's defend, let's put 8 in the box. And then all of a sudden, right before the snap, and what I love about the no-huddle look here is they get to the line of scrimmage very early. And what this is also going to do, other than allowing Brian Daboll to dictate what the defense and how they defend the offense, it also allows Josh Allen, before the ball is snapped, an idea of what the defense wants to do. You mentioned man coverage, right? Like now Josh Allen sees when DeMarco goes out to the right and split out right, he sees the linebacker, he knows it's man coverage. So now he's identified the coverage and they're in a play that is designed to beat man coverage. So like from a play calling and a design, a schematic standpoint, thing of beauty here from Brian Daboll, really setting his young quarterback up for success. If you can, on 70% of the plays, and maybe that's a conservative percentage of what they were able to do this week, but if you can give your quarterback a read of what the defense is doing in coverage pre-snap 70% of the time, man, I mean, you're really bridging the gap between a young quarterback and a guy like Tom Brady, or let's just use a veteran like Andy Dalton, who has seen a ton. It basically, you can't really throw coverage at Andy Dalton that he hasn't seen thus far in his career. Right. It's not the same. You can't say the same about Josh Allen being a young quarterback. So them identifying what the defense is doing pre-snap, I think really allowed and led to a lot of the success for Josh Allen.
To kind of piggyback on what you said about getting him to the line of scrimmage is, they got him to the line of scrimmage so quickly and into the set that a lot of times that kept that, that speaker in his ear open, that line of communication open where Daboll and that staff could communicate to Allen and what they're seeing on defense. But it was pretty obvious. Like you said, that DeMarco was off to the left here on the screen. It was pretty obvious man coverage. And, let's look at his mechanics here, because they were up and down, of course. That's always going to be the case with Allen. But as I mentioned earlier, that first read is off to his left. So you see him open left. He sees that edge defender peeling off on Singletary. That's covered. But watch him as Brown comes across the middle. You see him reset his feet right there and then deliver a really good ball. And again, it has velocity, and it has to, because it's winging right by that edge defender. And then Brown obviously catches it. He's got a few steps on that cornerback, and then of course can gain some yardage after.
Yeah, and let's talk about the evolution of this offense with John Brown running this route. You know who ran this route last year? Andre Holmes, okay? And Andre Holmes is not separating to the level that John Brown is capable of doing and does on this play. This is a window throw. It may appear to the common eye to be a pretty easy, straightforward throw. It's definitely not. And what Josh Allen is able to do is fit that between Tremaine Johnson and the linebacker who was covering Devin Singletary on the play. This is a window throw, a very accurate, well-timed, good velocity on the throw. Everything you want to see from a successful play, this is what you got on this one. So from a design standpoint, an accuracy standpoint, and timing, to be honest, standpoint, everything checks the box here. And I love Josh Allen's feet going from his number 1 to his number 2. They almost don't change. It's really just his upper body. Everything stays intact and where you want it to be for him to deliver an accurate football. And you and I have broken him down enough to know, Eric, that when his feet are right, the ball usually goes where he wants it to.
Definitely good play to start this game, and we'll see a little more of how that personnel grouping and these plays actually come back up in the game. It's a really good job by the offensive staff. All right, Nate. So the Bills are down 6-0 right now. There's 7:32 on the clock. The ball's on the 37-yard line, and we're gonna see a misfire here by Josh Allen. The Bills send out a 2-by-2 set, and you'll see the defense drop into a Tampa 2 coverage. Now, to the top of the screen, they got a little high-low with a deep out and a short in route. To the bottom of the screen, it looks to me more of like a cover 3 beater. You're going to have Beasley as the primary target on the numbers, one of those landmark throws that we talked about last year. But as I let the play roll, you'll see that the throw was a little off. His delivery was a little different. And I think based on this coverage with these 2 defenders right here in this window, I feel like Allen tried guiding this in a little closer to the numbers to Beasley's left shoulder once he turns, and Beasley did not kind of slide into that little void there. So I think Allen was trying to guide this in a little too much. We always talk about aim small, miss small. I think it was one of those moments. But what are your thoughts on this play? We'll take a look at it from the tight camera angle here in a second to show you, what I thought, why I thought that his delivery was a little different. But what are your overall thoughts on this play design, and maybe whether or not he was working the correct side of the field?
Yeah, I would argue that he probably wasn't working the correct side of the field against the cover 2. I don't really like that landmark throw to Cole Beasley against a cover 2. I mean, really, the defense is in perfect position to defend the route combinations here on really both sides. But if you're going to go somewhere, I think you do want to look at the left side of the field where you do have a corner route, which, as we know, is historically a good cover 2 beater, or that out route to the top of the screen there from the slot. And you do kind of have that crossing route open with separation from that middle linebacker, or that Sam linebacker right there. But I think all in all, it's just a well-defended play from a zone standpoint. It's not the best. It's not the play that I would come out against the cover 2, but at some point here, the defenses are going to win some plays. And I think what you saw here is just a good defensive play call against what was run by the Bills. And Josh Allen, as you mentioned, probably aiming it a little bit in there. He understands that you can't throw that ball haphazardly with that cover 2 corner kind of squatting. So, and that linebacker within reach too as well. And what I liked about, and I don't know the numbers offhand or the percentages, but I'd be willing. I saw the Jets play a lot of base defense this week with 3 linebackers, and that's not exactly a trend in the NFL moving forward.
No,
a lot of NFL
not.
teams are moving to a more right, you know what I'm saying? So most teams in the NFL are running that, the nickel package is their main package. And the Jets came out in a ton of 4-3 looks, which I think is really probably a result of their lack of pure edge rushers on the outside. And because, as we know, Greg Williams is more of a hybrid and multiple look guy, but I didn't really see a ton of 3-4 looks. They ran a lot of 4-3, and I thought that was interesting. No, Avery Williamson probably plays a role into that, but it wasn't a great play call to what the defense was running. And the Bills really weren't able to manipulate the defense like they were on the prior play.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, if you pay attention to his delivery and you've watched enough film of his, you'll see that he kind of drops his elbow down right there. It's not from the ear. You don't have that J motion follow through. And you'll see it's a little sidearm. And like I said, I think he was just kind of aiming in on this, trying to place it in a small spot between those two defenders along the numbers there. And I just don't think him and Beasley were on the same page. I think Allen, his issue was he wasn't reading Beasley all that well, the body behavior, body language of Beasley all that well. Beasley, on the other hand, was fighting the ball the entire day, and it just seems like on this play there was a slight miscommunication. I like the idea of where he's throwing it, and the idea and placement of where he wants to throw it. I don't know if it's necessarily the proper throw or concept to be using against his coverage, but again, you see the thought process, you see why the play wasn't, why the play didn't work. And as Daboll talked about yesterday, that's what the coaches are worried about, and that's what the coaches can work with. And so with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the next play. All right, next play, Nate. It's 3rd and 2, 9:35 left on the clock. The Bills are down 6-0 already. This is another play that the 21 personnel spread look kind of helps Josh Allen identify the coverage. So you'll see DeMarco coming across the formation, and he's right here in the slot, and then now he's moving out wide. Now you got to track him in the first quarter here when you're rewatching this film, because who goes with him really tells you what coverage that they're going to see. So right now there's a corner on him, but you'll see DeMarco, once he gets to play, you're going to see the safety bump out to him. So now the Bills have...
Oh, they are confused. Holy
totally
you
confused.
Just look at the confusion of the Jets defense.
Totally. And now you got John Brown in the slot versus the cornerback, Darryl Roberts, a guy that they wanted to attack. You know, Tremaine Johnson, there is technically their cornerback one. He's in the slot on Beasley here. Well, you know, with that little shift of putting DeMarco out wide, and now the safety bumps out with him. Now you got John Brown as the second slot guy, and it shows him as man coverage. So you want to attack that matchup. And the Bills, like they did all day, and kind of what they did all last year, they run a couple crossing routes over the middle, and you'll see Brown doesn't get much separation on this play, but Josh Allen still goes after the matchup, and he delivers a dime on a rope here to John Brown over the middle, and you'll see it better from the tight camera angle after they do the shifting and whatnot. But what are your thoughts on this play, Nate? And obviously the throw is a really nice throw by the quarterback.
The accuracy on this throw should not surprise anyone if you look at his passing charts. This is the best area of the field. The most accurate area of the field that Josh Allen throws to is the intermediate middle area of the field. And I want to say he's in like the upper 90th percentile in accuracy just his rookie season last year in that area of the field. So the accuracy on this throw should not surprise anyone. What does surprise me though, again though, is just Brian Daboll's ability to manipulate the defense, right? I think that's kind of the theme of this film breakdown. But what I love about this is not an easy throw. I mean, you mentioned it. The coverage is just about as good as you want it to be. You're not working with a Kelvin Benjamin, a 6'4", a 6'3" receiver. You're working with Smokey Brown, who is right around that 5'10" area. He puts it in a great spot for the defender to basically be taken out of the play completely. If this ball is 2 inches behind, if this ball is slightly higher or lower, you're talking about a potential tip action with a safety over the top that can make the pick on this play. You're talking about him having to come back into the defender. Maybe that trailing defender has an opportunity to grab or hit the ball away. So all in all, the accuracy is really impressive here. But again, it should not be surprising. This is his best part of the field throwing the football. And I expect these crossing routes to be a big part of this offense because they finally have the personnel to do it that can separate a little from these cornerbacks. But this is the area of the field that Brian Daboll knows Josh Allen can function in. The rest of the game plan, you see them use a lot of these crossing routes, and I expect that to continue moving on week to week.
No doubt. And you know what I like about this play too is, as you mentioned, you know, if the pass is off here, it's probably going to be intercepted by the deep safety. But you know, Josh Allen's not only throwing it with accuracy and good placement here, but he's throwing it with velocity
in the pocket
and in the pocket and
without a flinch.
Yeah, and you know, over this defender again, Johnson, and he's got to throw it with enough velocity so that guy doesn't even see it or have a chance. But we talked about the pocket manipulation here. Watch McClendon, who's over Mitch Morse, the center. He bull rushes Morse back. Now Morse does sit and kind of deflect him to his right, but look at Allen's eyes. Look where his eyes are. They're still downfield. He's still looking at the matchups over here. And then the slight movement in the pocket. Look, he's not worried about it. You know, he's not worried about any of this pressure. He's trusting that his offensive linemen are going to make their blocks and keep him clean so he could stand in here and deliver this play on 3rd and 2 to John Brown for the first down. Just a good play all around. Of course, there's a flag there. They had tagged that on afterwards. So,
the thing too, Eric, like when you're talking about the offensive line here, I mean, is there a quarterback right now? I could tell you what, in this particular game, one quarterback had a ton of confidence in his offensive line and the other didn't. And I think that is probably one of the storylines that doesn't get talked about enough. Like Mitchell Morse being able to anchor that play, huge. I mean, the idea that Quinnen Williams, the number 3 overall pick in the draft, basically just gets absorbed for 3.5 seconds by Quinton Spain. You know, that's not going to show up on a stat sheet anywhere, but what Quinton Spain's able to do is hold off one of the best young interior defensive linemen in football. And just looking at what the interior offensive line did, John Feliciano, I tweeted out earlier, like, played a really great game. I have been really impressed by what this interior offensive line is able to do. And if they can manipulate and keep we always talk about Tom Brady's spot, right? Like, you got to get Tom Brady off the spot. Right now, he's in Tom Brady's spot. This is where Tom Brady wins Super Bowls. He wins Super Bowls from this spot right here. And when he gets pushed off of that spot, they become easier to defend. If the Bills can function right here from in the pocket, this is where the Jets really struggled. This is where Sam Darnold struggled, okay?
Totally.
He does not function well from this spot. When Sam Darnold's at his best, he's moving outside the pocket. He's outside of the scheme of the offense. The Bills, for the first time, had a quarterback, in a long time, Eric. The Bills, for the first time in a long time, had a quarterback function from the spot better than I've seen in a very long time from an accuracy standpoint and just an effectiveness standpoint. It's a really, really good sign that Josh Allen doesn't even flinch at this, because I thought at times a pocket like this, he might be moving around a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And, it's something when I went back and watched the game last night from the All-22, you mentioned Feliciano, by far the best offensive lineman in this game.
It's nuts to me, man.
Yeah,
it's
crazy the value that they got out of that guy, and I don't think he's not going to be unseated by anyone.
No.
The thing that I liked about the moves that they brought, the guys they brought in with the, Mitch Morse's, Spencer Long, Feliciano, and even Spain to a certain extent. I think if anyone struggled, it was Spain, but he does a good job here. But their strength and power at the point of attack in the run game, and their ability to anchor in the pass game and deflect and pass off stunters. If you go back and watch a film, a ton of that happened. Now, you mentioned the spot. I mean, Steve McClendon is no slouch. He's a powerful guy.
Right.
Think about Mitch Morse. I mean, he basically didn't play in the preseason. He's obviously really, his legs are probably not in game shape yet, or playing shape for that matter. And he somehow managed to, just sideswipe McClendon to his right just a little bit to clear that passing lane and that vision for Josh Allen to hit John Brown over the middle. Just a good play from top to bottom. All right, Nate, 2nd and 2 situation here, 7:15 on the clock. Bills still down 6-0. They send out another 3-by-1 set, kind of like the last play we looked at. And you're going to see that defender late lining up out wide with Mr. DeMarco, kind of, again, identifying that coverage. Hey, we're in man coverage. But on this play, you're going to see Josh Allen check to a different play here. On the defensive side, the Jets changed the cornerback that was on Brown the last play over the middle. So instead of having Darryl Roberts on John Brown over the middle and the Bills attacking that matchup, they put Roberts on Beasley right here in the slot, and then Tremaine Johnson is the corner right here over John Brown. So the Bills say, hey, well, if you're going to do that, we're still going to attack the guy we want, and we're going to do it with our formation. We're going to do it with just a little flat pattern to Cole Beasley in the slot to convert the first down. So what are your thoughts on this play and how the team adjusted and had this in the arsenal to adjust that quickly in this game?
Well, first of all, this was my favorite route concept when I played. I loved the double slant with a little bit of that flat combination underneath. It's one of my favorite concepts, especially to a trips, and especially in this down and distance. And before I even really dissect this play, I think the one important thing, and I know Warren Sharp tweeted about this, is I think the Bills ended up with 10 third downs. Like, this is a team that dominated on second down, and we talked about that in the preseason. Yep. This was a team that in 2nd and long was setting themselves up for success on 3rd down by giving themselves 3rd and manageable. And they didn't even have to do that because they were converting so much on 2nd down in this game. This play in particular, I know before we were setting it up, we were talking about the ball placement on this. I'm not actually, I don't want to say like, I'm not discouraged by the ball placement here.
No.
It's a little bit on the back shoulder where I think we probably want him to lead to the sidelines. But on a 2nd and 2 or a 2nd and short or just a short conversion, I don't mind because it actually brings him upfield quicker than if you feed him to the sidelines where it's maybe a little bit more of an elongated and it gives the defender a little bit more time to catch him, and it probably reduces the overall yardage gain on the play. So the ball placement, it's not perfect, right?
No.
But I don't think that's going to be something we see from Josh. Josh Allen's not going to have perfect placement. But on this particular ball, I actually like that it brings him upfield past the first down marker. As he kind of turns, he's able to turn right upfield and gain a couple extra yards instead of having to run to the sideline to try to beat the defender around the corner.
Yeah, it's great to watch this play from the tight camera angle because as you know the formation sets up and DeMarco's out wide, you see Josh Allen watching all of these box defenders, right? He's watching all of these guys and seeing, hey, DeMarco's out wide. There's no one on him. Who's going to cover him? And you'll see the guy I highlighted, Neville Hewitt. He's like, oh, that's my guy. I got to run out there. Well, guess what? Now
Thanks
I know.
for identifying. Yeah.
Yep,
Thanks.
I know it's man coverage. Alert, alert, alert. Now we're running that flat route to Beasley. So this is just fun stuff. This is stuff that you're not going to see in the box score, but you're going to be able to watch when you watch film and be like, wow, I get it now. Because the Bills gave Josh Allen the options to obviously change plays. He was calling the no-huddle, but they also gave him a lot of check with me's, which means they gave him 2 plays, whether it be a run and pass tag or 2 passes or 2 different types of runs, and let him decide at the line of scrimmage on what the call here. And you see the alert call, so that typically means they're going to the second play, right? And so now the offensive line has to block a pass because you see Singletary. There was some kind of run tag here. You see that little inside zone track by him. And when the alert call was there, you watch the offensive lineman look back. See, they're trying to set that protection now that it's a pass. So this is fun stuff to me and stuff that we didn't really see too much of. We saw a little bit of it last year, maybe particularly in the Vikings game, but you know, they had a lot of check with me's and run pass tags. But if they operate like this on a weekly basis and they give Josh Allen the ability to problem solve at the line of scrimmage, that's giving your offense the needed advantage and success, you know, putting your offense in the position to succeed on a weekly basis.
I think too, I think just has to make people feel good is that not only is the offensive coordinator entrusting his young quarterback to make plays and to adjust at the line of scrimmage and have those, check with me plays where, hey, you know, maybe we want to switch into a run set. Maybe they go from a 7-man box to a 6-man box, similar to what they do here, right? Or they go from an 8 to a 7. Well, it's still an ideal passing situation. What I like about this, and maybe I want to talk about CJ Mosley here for a second, because CJ Mosley, a lot of people after the game said, well, CJ Mosley went out. That's the only reason the Bills won. And I think it's
I disagree, man.
I completely agree too. I don't think that the Bills all of a sudden had success running the football because CJ Mosley wasn't in the game anymore. What I do believe, though, what affected the defense when CJ Mosley went out is CJ Mosley is their epicenter of communication. And if you look right here, he's the one who is checking in and out of plays against Josh Allen. So this matchup is Josh Allen versus CJ Mosley. And when Mosley went out of the game, Allen took advantage of their lack of communication, not because a good player went out and all of a sudden the Bills were able to run. No, I think where the Bills took advantage of was from a communication standpoint. What they had been doing all day had been countered by CJ Mosley's communication ability, not necessarily him ranging across the field and making 15 tackles, 20 tackles. The communication element is what Josh Allen took advantage of. And the fact that your second-year quarterback in his 12th start is going up and basically taking on one of the best linebackers. Now, he's not the best linebacker, but he's definitely a top 5 guy. Yeah. And one of the better communicator on that defense. That says a lot to me that the quarterback saw their communication expert leave the game and he just took advantage. He owned that defense from a communication standpoint, and that is really promising because even some of Allen's biggest naysayers, like Kean Fahey, for instance, even he's like, this was Josh Allen's best game, and it wasn't even from a play standpoint. To me, this stuff, the pre-snap stuff, that's what I talked about pregame. That's what I was watching for. Man, a noticeable growth pre-snap, communicating, and everything that they're putting on him. They have not babied Josh Allen in the least bit, and he's taken it with a grain of salt and really put himself in a position to take strides this year. I saw more from Josh Allen cerebrally, from a cerebral standpoint this week than I did from Sam Darnold, and that's a big win for the Bills.
All right, Nate, 3rd and 8 situation. Bills still down 6-0 here. They send out our favorite, the empty set, and they're going to get man coverage with John Brown running a deep crossing route versus the cornerback of the Jets. And, I mean, out of the gates, John Brown just smokes Johnson. There's no way that he's running with John Brown. And it's those deep crossing routes. You see to the bottom of the screen, I believe that's Robert Foster running a deep post. So he's going to pull that deep safety who's like 80 yards deep and it's going to be John Brown wide open. And I'll show you from the tight camera angle here in a second on how Josh Allen not only hangs in the pocket, but how he processes this coverage. But overall, talk about the matchup and attacking that matchup of John Brown, because he had a day.
And yeah, what I love about this is the defense, again, not in a good position to defend this play. And it starts with Jamal Adams, their best player defensively. The interesting thing that I noticed about this, right, is he's got to come all the way across the formation. What Devin Singletary's role here is to take away the team's best defender and put him nowhere near the play. And Jamal Adams is literally nowhere near the play. They've taken him out of the play just based on the defensive coverage they were running. So that's what I love about this play. The other thing I really like about this play is Dawson Knox at the line of scrimmage, getting a really good piece of that pass rusher on the edge on Josh Allen's blind side. I loved that play as well. But when we're talking about Josh Allen on this, these are the throws that Josh Allen needs to perfect for him to have the kind of career that his ceiling suggests he can have. These long, 15 to 20 yard intermediate crossing route throws thrown with perfection. And what I mean is, look at the location of that football. John Brown catches it, and you're talking about one of the more electrifying wide receivers with the ball in his hands in the league, not just here in Buffalo, but in the league. And I think what we saw from John Brown Sunday was a lot of what Ravens fans saw the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season last year, when Joe Flacco and him really had a connection deep down the field in those intermediate to long routes. And we know Josh wants to exist in some of those deeper route concepts. And if he can continue to have the success that he had Sunday, that's going to be a big development for this offense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned those, the chips by Singletary on the right, and then you'll see Knox right here, because what Greg Williams was doing was he was kicking out his edge defenders. I mean, look at this. His edge defenders are several yards outside the tackle box. He only has one defender over the center here. So they're trying to confuse not only Josh Allen on those outside rushers, kind of those delayed rushers from out wide like he struggled with last year, but the offensive line, they're trying to confuse the offensive line here. And it almost works, because you'll see Ty Nsekhe on the snap, you'll see him kick out wide to go pick up that edge rusher. And then he notices there's a late rusher coming inside, so he goes to pick him up. But that guy kind of goes towards the middle of the field, and it leaves this edge rusher unblocked. And I mean, Josh Allen's looking left at this moment, and so he is not even seeing that guy. But now from the top, now watch Josh Allen's helmet where he's looking, because on the snap he takes it and he's immediately looking left, right? Now he's looking to the middle of the field, checking that safety. He's looking back to the left, and he's looking out ahead, because he sees that John Brown early on beats his guy off the snap. But now he's looking out ahead of John Brown and looking to this corner over here that is on, I think it's Robert Foster out there running to the post, making sure that he's in a man turn, that he's running at the hip of that wide receiver, so that he's clearing out with Robert Foster and taking that deep safety with him. So Allen's looking out ahead, and that's just processing the coverage. That's good spatial awareness post snap. And then, of course, you mentioned the location. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that on a rope, man.
Yeah, and there are a few quarterbacks that can throw at that type of velocity 25 yards down the field and hit it just in absolute stride. And this, again, and I want to keep using some of these plays as a measuring stick of progress. And this right here, I mean, you mentioned his ability to sort of decipher and get through each of his reads, but understanding and leading the safety to a position out of harm. Because, I mean, if Josh Allen stares down John Brown this entire time, he likely brings that deep safety in play. Now, is he going to be able to make a play? I don't know. He was really far off. But his eye manipulation, his understanding of, hey, as you mentioned, Robert Foster, once Robert Foster clears and you know that defender is on his hip, there is going to be a 30-yard window for him to, all he has to do is put it on stride and boom. Look at that. It's 15 yards between the safety and probably about 4 yards between the nearest defender. All Josh Allen has to do is put it on him. Not only does he put it on him, he gives him an opportunity to turn upfield with his throw. So again, from start to finish, a really positive play from Josh Allen. Things you love to see.
I'm sorry, this throw is not getting enough talk.
Beautiful.
It's not getting enough talk, man. I mean,
Again, he stands in, he delivers the football and gets hit right as the football is released. Again, I totally agree. Not getting talked about enough. I mean, this is a throw right here. Not only that, but this is a play that probably doesn't even happen last year. Look at the window for him to run and become a runner. Instead, he stays in the pocket and delivers a beautiful pass downfield. Again, him existing inside the pocket, I thought from the pocket today was there isn't even a game comparable to his effectiveness in the pocket like Sunday's game.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's moving obviously from Allen's right to left, but not only that, he's gaining depth across the field. And, it's just such a tough throw. And as you mentioned, it's literally like right at his chest. I mean, look at the location on that. And then he just, catches it with the hands, and then it's just nice little stroll down the field for a big gain. I'm sorry, this throw is probably one of my favorites so far, just because of everything from the pocket, standing in there, taking the big hit, and then the location on that throw. You can't really teach stuff like that. You either have the arm to pull this throw off to a speedy receiver running across the field, gaining depth against a man corner. This is just a special throw from the second-year quarterback. All right, Nate, so we're going to go on to a play that I'm sure Josh Allen wish he had back. It's a 2nd and 10 situation. The Bills are now down 16-0, 5:51 on the clock in the third quarter. 3-by-1 set to the field. You're going to see the defense play man coverage, and the Bills just run a couple of crossing routes. You got a little mesh over the middle when it's man coverage. You're going to have a wide receiver running that deep corner route to kind of pull those safeties, and then you're going to have a dig to the bottom of the screen by John Brown. I want you to remember that, because that's the play that Josh Allen hits Zay Jones later in the game. So we're going to get the throw here to Dawson Knox, who I've highlighted there, and it's a throw on this mesh concept that I think Allen would like to have back, mainly because he got the matchup he wanted. He got Neville Hewitt a matchup against Dawson Knox, and Knox was separating, but Allen doesn't lead him out in front like we'd like to see him do. He should have let him out here so that he could run to it and catch it, and he threw it a little hot, but it's a play I think that eventually in time I do think these two will connect, and overall I like the play call.
Yeah, I like the play call too. You're right. I mean, if this was the throw that we saw to John Brown, this is likely a catch and potentially a first down and more. So yeah, the ball placement here is the negative part of this. You mentioned the mesh concept. He probably has Isaiah McKenzie almost right away after the mesh.
Yeah.
That linebacker is forced to go over the top, which is why you run the mesh, and it creates just enough separation. If the ball is thrown quickly and accurately, Isaiah McKenzie's got the ball in his hands with open space. That's what you'd like to see. If you could choose between having Dawson Knox, nice player, good 40 time, or Isaiah McKenzie getting the ball with open space. Obviously, you want Isaiah McKenzie getting the ball with open space. But I'm not going to fault him for the read. I think it was ultimately a fine read. It's just poor execution on his part. It's nothing to do with footwork. I think his footwork's there. And obviously, he puts a lot of heat on it, too, which also probably doesn't help that it's slightly thrown behind, having that much heat. You'd like, if you're going to have that much heat, you got to put it on his face mask, and it's just slightly behind. I do want to see Dawson Knox make the play, but I think he could have made it easier for him to make the play.
Yeah, no doubt, especially a young guy like that. I'll let it play. The play is there, regardless if he made the correct read or, McKenzie was open. I agree with you there. You see Knox accelerate. So all he has to do is take a little off it, throw it out in front of him. And I think Knox could even be in a position to catch the ball and get some yardage after that versus Neville Hewitt. All right, Nate, 3rd and 12 here. Bills still down 16-0 in the third quarter, 3:59 left on the clock. And this, of all the plays, is probably one that Josh went back and watched and said, man, I left points out on the field. The Bills come out in an empty set. It's condensed. It's something that we loved about the scheme last year. They got Brown, Beasley, and Foster. Obviously, some super quick and fast guys out there. They run a double post to the bottom of the screen by Cole Beasley and Robert Foster. John Brown, the solo receiver to the top of the screen, is run that deep crosser versus this Tampa 2 coverage. And you're going to see that Mike linebacker drop to that deep middle. And, Allen, to me, locks in on obviously one of his favorite targets and someone that he's become buddy-buddy with. Cole Beasley here is running the deep post, and that guy's not open. I mean, he's got the linebacker in that deep hook to curl. He's got, I believe, Jamal Adams right there bracketing that. That guy's not open, but you see Josh Allen, he's getting ready to throw it, and he actually pumps it here and pulls it back, and then he tries getting John Brown to the bottom here. And he missed this. This is a touchdown. If he's moving on and not locking on the Cole Beasley, he has John Brown breaking to the end zone, and Marcus May totally out of position as this other receiver, Robert Foster, heads to the post here. I mean, it was set up for a touchdown. It was a great call on third down, but Allen, he's got to go back and kick himself on this play.
Yeah, and we know he loves the double post. I mean, is there a player that loves the double post that gets called for the double post more than Josh Allen? Probably not. But you're right. I mean, he's just too late, and I think he locks onto Cole Beasley. And we mentioned this on a few of these film studies, that especially in preseason, he seemed to have a tendency to lock onto Cole Beasley and not really move off. On this play, I think what he needs to understand is with that Tampa 2 middle linebacker bailing, that there was going to be a giant opening for John Brown once he crossed the mesh point with Robert Foster. Robert Foster is going to clear not only the safety but the Tampa 2 linebacker, essentially paving the way for a pitch and catch touchdown. All he has to do is get it on John Brown. If he doesn't get in the end zone, it's because Marcus May makes an incredible play to get back. But the timing is not great, and it allows the corner also to potentially make a play on this football as well. And in a cover 2 look, you don't want to see your corner be able to make a play like that. So all in all, it's obviously one of his negative plays. It didn't turn into a touchdown. He's lucky that it wasn't intercepted. But this is just a play that I think I need him to identify right away. And really, I think more importantly, just not lock into one receiver, especially on these double post routes when you're going to have a drag route on the back end, a deep drag route like they saw with it's basically clearing out, so like one of these, you need to understand that on that double post, if it's not open right away, I'm looking at that on that back end to John Brown almost immediately. He just doesn't take his eyes off of Cole Beasley. I'm surprised he didn't throw this football. Like the fact that he was able to hold it back, first of all, shows a pretty interesting level of restraint on that. Like he's ready to go until right there, and he's like, no. So I'd like him to understand that he can't lock on one receiver, especially on this route concept, because you have the other guy coming across, which essentially is, I don't want to say the number one target on this play, because I would say that one of those posts are, but that's a really, really important route in this concept, and I want him to see it much earlier and throw with more anticipation.
Yeah, and I mean, Cody Ford throws a guy at the club, so he steps up in the pocket and he starts rolling his right, and then he catches Brown late, and it's a panic throw. You can see he doesn't even really set or anything, and he's throwing on the run as there's a guy in his face. And I mean, he got lucky. He got really lucky here. And, this is going to happen. These type of plays, we're going to say this every single week. He's going to have moments like this where, maybe the pocket isn't perfect, or maybe the route concept didn't quite work versus the coverage, and he's forced to extend the play, and then all of a sudden he's going to catch someone late, and then he's going to make a bad decision like this. Luckily for the Bills, this one was dropped by Marcus May. All right, Nate, so now the Bills are back in the game, 4:27 left on the clock. It's the fourth quarter. They're down 16-10. The ball's on the 36-yard line. Okay, so now we're back to a play they ran earlier, right? I mentioned that John Brown and then that dig route. Well, this time they got Zay Jones running that dig route to the top of the screen. They got a low mesh concept, another high-low concept over the middle too, from that stacked formation. So there's a lot to like about this play call, but the throw is pretty good by Josh Allen here. Again, it's a nice deep drop. It's not something we saw a lot of last year, but it's a nice deep drop. Gets him away from that blitz that's coming from Jamal Adams, which you'll see from that tight camera angle. And he's throwing a strike here to Zay Jones on a dig route, but you'll see Zay Jones, he attacks that outside shoulder to get into the blind spot of that corner to the top of the screen, and then he breaks it over the middle just past the 50, and the throw is strong, and Zay Jones is able to obviously scoop it up for the first down.
Yeah, what I love about this play, Eric, is he waits for it to develop. And, I would have liked to see a little bit more abruptness from Zay Jones on this route when he breaks. I think he could have created more separation. He's just not that quick twitch player that like a Cole Beasley is at the top of his route. So it's not a great route, but I do like your point that he essentially using his leverage forces that corner who's pattern matching him out of position. So all good all around from Zay Jones, but it's the throw, and it continues to be the throw. These deep over the middle intermediate throws just were on all day. And especially when you got to the fourth quarter, Josh Allen became a freaking tactician. Like, he was going at it and just delivering absolute dimes. And this is no different, especially because I thought the Jets did a good job of covering the route coming backside from John Brown. I thought they made good contact at the line of scrimmage. They sort of pushed him off his route tree. And then they bracketed, it looked like it would have been the other safety. So they bracketed with the safety and the guy that was over the top. And it looks like Cole Beasley on this play. So everything is really well covered over the middle. This is the only place he could have beat the defense. And he beats it with a perfect throw.
Yeah, and I talked about the pattern matching versus that stack look. You'll see, it's not just straight man coverage. They're pattern matching these two receivers right here. You'll see, based on the release, you're going to have a guy take the low, you're going to have a guy take the higher in breaking route. And then, as you said, you're going to get a slice from that safety to help take away that in breaking route. So they did change up their coverage a little bit, but Allen's up to the task.
It didn't matter. It
didn't matter. And Allen's up to the task. He's reading that, and you know what? As that deep safety, slices that route, now he's got that in breaking route to Zay Jones. So this is something, and you see these plays, these combinations, these pairings throughout a game. You see that maybe that they attacked it one way early in the game. Well, here you see that the Bills go ahead and adjust to the coverage that the Jets sent at him, and then you see Allen go ahead and throw a strike to Zay Jones here to put them in business on this drive. And you'll see prior to the snap, the blitz is coming off the left-hand side here, right? You see there's several defenders over here. It looks like they're sending some kind of blitz. So you see Allen right there, right, Nate? You see him kind of pointing out that he needs to slide the protection left, and the offensive line sorts it out here. You see Mitch Morse. It looks like they are making Cashman the Mike linebacker here. So as that protection sliding left, Feliciano is actually the part of the man protection to the right. And as that guy loops outside to be contained, here comes Leonard Williams across the middle, and he just punishes him. And of course, they mentioned it in the broadcast, Jamal Adams is blitzing here along with Cashman, but he was interfered with by that crossing pattern. And it really set up the protection quite well for the Bills and Josh Allen. And he just stands in there and, again, delivers a strike to Zay Jones.
Yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line. They really, all day, they gave Josh Allen the necessary time for him to be a comfortable passer within the pocket. And I mentioned he looked really at home on that spot inside the pocket when conversely that I thought Sam Darnold did not. And this is a play that really probably signifies that, is just look how much room he has to operate. When he's comfortable within that pocket, I think he's going to make more of these types of throws and more. He's going to have to throw with way more accuracy if he doesn't have to worry about the offensive line in front of him. And I think we're seeing examples of that throughout this game.
Yeah, definitely, man. Again, you mentioned the comfort in the pocket. The offensive line did a great job, and they didn't have much help. It looks like Singletary does stay in here, but they didn't really keep too many tight ends in or running backs in. It was mainly the front five, or front six if you count Cody Ford and Nzeki kind of in and out. But those guys did a great job versus obviously a strong interior pass rush. But I thought they just did a great job of keeping the pocket clear and the sight lines clear for Josh Allen to make throws just like this. All right, Nate, 3rd and 4, 3:07 left on the clock. Bills still down. We got the game-winning play here, basically the go-ahead touchdown for the Bills to John Brown. Empty set, we love it. Jets show a single high set, man coverage. John Brown to the bottom of the screen, obviously. And I really love Josh Allen's processing on this play, and you'll see it better from the tight camera angle, but he obviously likes this play here. Daboll said that this was basically a 2-down play. So on this down and distance, they wanted to take a shot at if it was there. They got the look they wanted. They got the matchup they wanted. Little stutter route by John Brown to the bottom, but the corner does a good job of staying in that player's pocket. But Josh Allen trusts John Brown to make a play, throws it inside a little short so that Brown can adjust and make a play on the ball for the touchdown. I mean, just a really good play as you see it here from the broadcast angle. The corner did a good job of staying upfield, right, Nate? Stayed upfield, didn't fall for the stutter step, and he's into the hip pocket of John Brown. So if Josh wants to throw this, he can't just throw it, the typical back shoulder throw is going to be very difficult, especially from that distance versus this tight of coverage. He obviously leads them inside pretty well, and Brown just makes a play for the touchdown. So let's talk about what your thoughts are on this play from the top of the script.
Yeah, man. I love the trust. And not only that, I just, it's a gutsy throw from a quarterback that just was leading his team. It just looked incrementally, play by play. You just got the feeling to this point in the drive that the Bills were going to complete this. I just didn't think it was going to be in one fall swoop like they did here. You're right. It's an interesting play design on this play. There really was nothing else open. Honestly,
Nothing.
It was a really well covered play. It's a throw that not a lot of quarterbacks in this league are going to make. He has trust in John Brown, and the fact that he has this much already is a really, really good sign. But yeah, I loved this throw from Allen. And I love that he basically waited until the waning moments of this football game to take his shot. To me, that shows a ton of maturity, because he was a guy in the preseason that mentioned it. When they were running the football, he got a little antsy and he felt it necessary that he needed to take a shot. So the fact that he's already understanding that throughout the game, your shot's going to come, right? And we just need to be patient and wait for it. And well, it came in the most important time of the game.
Yeah, it was great. This play, I thought probably could have been called a hold on Mitch Morse, but just watch that battle versus one of their best pass rushers and defenders. Off the snap, you'll see Mitch Morse throw a right hand here to kind of be aggressive and take the play to Williams. Well, Williams counters, and so then Morse counters again as Williams comes with power. You see Morse double slap those hands down, but now Williams is into his chest. Could have been a hold here. I don't care. Let's talk about Josh Allen and keeping his eyes downfield. And you see from the top of the snap, watch his helmet, watch his eyes, looking left, looking down the center at that center fielder. And then now he's looking left again, and he's like, you know what? This is my only shot. There's no one else open. I'm going to give my guy a shot. We're going to go for it on fourth down anyways. Let's go for it. And, for a guy to have that trust in his player is one thing. But for a guy that had struggled early on in this game with turnovers, he could have easily, hung it up well earlier in this game, but he came back in that fourth quarter, went 8 for 10 for 102 yards and a touchdown, and make a play like this to go ahead. This is why you draft guys with the mental toughness to build your team around guys that have that type of trait, because it's in times like these when you need that guy to make a play that you hope that they can, like Josh Allen did here. All right, Nate, so we went through a bunch of film, some of it good, some of it bad. What were your thoughts on Josh Allen's play from the top? I mean, his command, his poise, some of the location throws, some of the off-location throws. What were your thoughts on Josh Allen in his first action of 2019?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And I mentioned this earlier. I just, if he can keep doing this and keep building off this performance, but eliminate some of the mistakes, which I think he will do, and this team can continue to sort of invest the confidence that they have into his stock. I see him growing from a performance like this. This wasn't the best defense they're going to face all year. They'll likely face a better defense in New England come week 4. I think that they'll likely face a better defense in 2 weeks against the Cincinnati Bengals. But I think this is a really good building block performance for Josh Allen. And I can't tell you what a comeback victory like this not only does for his own personal confidence, but the confidence of his teammates. And everyone, it appears like, in that room really entrusts Josh Allen and believes that he's the guy. And the stat that you're pointing to right now, to me, is arguably the biggest development to date. It's his ability to now understand what he's seeing and getting rid of the ball quicker than he did last year. Almost a full half second, maybe more.
Yeah. It was 3.01 snap to attempt in 2018. So this is big.
So about half a second it was shaved off in the first game of the year. That's a huge development in Josh Allen's game. And if he can continue to grow there, that to me is a metric of confidence and a metric of understanding more so than than anything else. So that confidence level keeps rising. I expect that number to continue to trend more towards the league average, and maybe even some in the areas. I mean, you mentioned, look at some of the names on the top of this list. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that traditionally holds on to the football, but if he's going to be next to Baker Mayfield, I mean, let's take that.
Yeah, totally.
100 times out of 100,
Totally. And, the 2.53 seconds snap to attempt is huge. Why? Because you want the ball out of his hand. You don't want him making dumb decisions. But that's why I said at the top of this show, you got to give some credit to this staff, from top to bottom, because they put him in that no huddle. They put him in those odd, personnel combinations. Oh, why is DeMarco on the field as a receiver? This is why. It made it much easier for Allen to dissect the coverage and ID the coverage, get the ball out of his hand when he wanted to. And you see on plays that were 2.5 seconds or less, he had a 71.4 completion percentage. Now, he had a couple interceptions, obviously, but that's something that if you look at individually in a vacuum, you can break down what where the issues were. But to have a 71.4 completion percentage when he's getting the ball out quickly into that short area, that is a win. Maybe it's only a win this week, and maybe it's not going to be like this every week. I'm seeing a lot of different things that are helping support Josh Allen, not just the talent that we saw on the field in the Cole Beasleys and the John Browns. I think everyone is starting to work together to really support this kid, and that's all you can ask for. Give your guy a shot, and I think they did in this game, and hopefully that type of game planning and preparation carries on in following weeks.
Yeah, the new additions, Derek, they really shined in this game, and I think it plays to a more underlying point of what Brandon Beane was able to do this offseason and surrounding Josh Allen with better NFL talent, and it showed in week 1, and I expect it to just get better. I mean, this is where we want him. We want him in the 10, 11, 12, in every major statistical category. If he can be that middle of the pack or slightly above man, the Bills are going to go places this football season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, 70.5% of the time he was not under pressure. He completed accuracy percentage of 84%. I mean, his adjusted completion percentage was pretty good from what I remember too. I mean, he was literally 4th in accuracy percentage. So that obviously takes into account drops, throwaways, spikes, head is thrown. So when he had the opportunity to throw, to stand in the pocket and throw, he had an 84.8% accuracy percentage. And again, that's what you want from your quarterback, and you want to give him a shot on a week-to-week basis. So with that said, let's wrap it up. Nate, where can everyone find you on Twitter?
At Nate Gary WGR. Really excited about this next breakdown next week, Eric. The New York Giants, a real good opportunity for the Bills to go 2-0. I'll be really looking for Josh Allen to build off the performance that he had against the New York Jets on the road again for their second straight week.
So on to next week, guys. We'll see you probably early next week for another edition of Cover One, the Film Room.